Hi there, folks. I'm Mark Coleman from the Virginia Varsity Sports Network, and this is the February 3rd, 2014 edition of Varsity 360, where we look at the week's top stories in Fredericksburg area high school sports. Very pleased that you found us and very happy to be partnered with Fredericksburg.com, the online home of the Freelance Star, and also with the great folks from FLS Varsity, part of the Freelance Star Sports Department, focusing on area high school sports. And what a treat we have this week. Three of my very good friends from FLS Varsity have joined us, so let's introduce them. First of all, as always, we have the Assistant Sports Editor, Mr. Justin Rice. Justin, good to see you.
Mark.
And we have Sports Reporter Extraordinaire. I see that title has actually become official now. Taft Coghill Jr. Taft, good to see you, buddy.
Good to see you too, Mark.
And joining us for the first time on this show, he was actually the very first guest we had on the Gridiron Report, making his first appearance on Varsity 360. We have Mr. Nathan Warters. Nathan, welcome. Good to see you.
Thanks. Good to see you.
So, first of all, gang, did you watch the game last night? Any surprises? Did you make any money? Anything? The Super Bowl last night?
I watched because the Freelance Star was paying me to watch.
Okay.
I kept it on to the bitter end.
It was a bit of a snoozer, unfortunately, but it's always good to watch football. Unfortunately, we're going to have to wait a few more months before we can catch that again, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I guess the law of averages takes over, too. You've had some good Super Bowls, and I guess we were finally due a dud there. Unfortunately, it was a dud in the first quarter, so we had to endure that the whole way through.
Yeah, I was thinking, driving into work yesterday, it had been a while since we'd had an awful Super Bowl, but I thought it would be an awful Super Bowl maybe in the other direction, so it definitely caught off guard. Yeah.
Well, speaking of football, coming up this week, on Wednesday actually, it's National Signing Day, and a number of area high school football players we're going to be signing. So let's take a look at where we expect that they will go. We'll make it official. We're recording this on Monday. The signing day is on Wednesday, but we think we've got a pretty good idea of where some of these kids are going to be going. Let's start with Stephen Moss from Chancellor.
Yeah, Moss, he orally committed to UVA last March. He had over 20-something offers, and we fully expect him to make that official on Wednesday.
Big addition for UVA, and they've got a really impressive recruiting class coming in this season.
Yeah, big addition to their offensive line. He played tackle at Chancellor, but they're expected to move him into guard at the next level.
A couple of other linemen from the area that have also made some big waves from this past season, and both are going to Tech. Vinny Mahota and Steven Sobchak.
Yeah, pretty anticlimactic day for Mahota because he committed 2 years ago. So I think Tech fans have known he was going to be a part of this class for a while. He's already enrolled at Virginia Tech, right. So he's provided he's healthy enough and he's over the foot injury that held him out for most of last season. He will be competing for a spot on that line, probably at a depth position. Sobchak, he was kind of a late bloomer, a guy who was committed to JMU, and then all of a sudden Virginia Tech kind of came into the picture there towards the end after his great senior season, and I know he's excited to be a part of that. I think both of these guys project on the defensive line, probably more at tackle for both, but they'll both be competing for depth spots this year.
Sobchak really stood up and took over when Mahota was out for so much of the season. For Massaponax and really made some huge impacts there.
Yeah, on both sides of the line. He was pretty critical to their success on both sides, and they had a great season, and he was a huge part of it.
Well, another name that was part of consideration for Area Player of the Year, he's going to be a walk-on at Virginia Tech, staying with the Hokies, Joey Sly.
Yeah, and they were a hot mess at kicker last year, so Joey Sly will be he could be a factor this year. I mean, he could be a big factor this year at kickoff or place kicker for them. They're set at punter, but the other two kicker positions are going to be open this year, and he could come in and be a factor there. And Frank Beamer has been loyal to those guys. I mean, he'll bring in a big group of guys, let them compete for the job, and whoever's got the best leg, whoever's got the most accuracy, wins the job. And from what I've seen, I think from what you guys have seen, he's got the leg,
no doubt,
and he's got the accuracy too. I mean, he doesn't miss a lot, so he could be a factor early as well.
Well, the Area Player of the Year has also made some decisions. So Daniel Azagwu, he's going to be going to Maryland, it sounds like.
Yeah, he made that decision last week on his official visit. Came as a bit of a surprise to pretty much everybody. I mean, even Bill Brown said he was a bit shocked that he jumped on the Terrapins, but he was blown away by some of the festivities there when he was on his official visit, and he went ahead and made the commitment.
Now, his brother David made a trip to JMU, and it sounds like he's probably going to sign on there.
Yeah, he committed to JMU this weekend on his official visit. His brother joined him on the visit, but JMU coaches weren't able to sway him to back off of his commitment to Maryland. But he should be a good fit there at probably at an outside linebacker type spot.
Excellent. Some other key players from the area: Jawan Horton going to New Hampshire. Talked about that last week. Bit of a surprise there. Jamal Bevels going to Richmond. Yeah, big kid. It's hard to teach. Hard to teach height.
Yeah, big, tall, primary receiver for JM.
Yeah,
and he committed during the season, and I think could be a nice, successful player at that level for sure. Just with his height and so on, and can definitely catch the ball.
And Corey Henderson from King George has committed to Buffalo.
Yeah, projects as a linebacker. He's a real big playmaker there at the middle linebacker spot. So I'm sure he'll make some waves there at Buffalo. I'm
interested to see where he does end up position-wise. Is he a linebacker? Is he a defensive end? What type? I think he's sort of got that flexibility and definitely the size. Yeah.
I can almost see him as a tight end. Also, they put him on the offensive side of the field. I mean, he's got some good feet and certainly understands offense.
Yeah, an athletic big man for sure. So I think I'll be interested where he ends up position-wise.
Yeah. I think defense is where he's going to end up. Everything I heard about him was even the major schools that came in, like West Virginia and Virginia Tech. Bud Foster had talked to him and was really impressed with what he did at linebacker. And I think he projects up front somewhere on defense probably.
Well, not a whole lot of intrigue in terms of suspense for National Signing Day, really across the nation, but particularly for this area. But congratulations to those young men on their success, and best of luck in the future endeavors there at the next level. Speaking of the next level, a couple of folks who were high school stars from this area have made some waves at the collegiate level recently. Let's see, we'll start with Seth Allen up at Maryland. He's had a really good game this past week.
Yeah, I had a chance to see him up close for the first time this year in Blacksburg against Virginia Tech, and he had probably the best game he's had all year. Of course, he missed the first 12 games of the year with that foot injury that kept him out for part of the preseason. He looks to be coming into form again, back to what he was doing late in the season last year. He had 16 points, 7 assists, 5 rebounds. Those are all near his career highs in each category, and he says he's close to being 100%. He's close to being back to where he was health-wise, and it's really starting to show on the court. And I think he's going to be a real key player for them. We're hitting that stretch run in ACC season, so he's going to be a key player for them as they try to kind of position themselves for one of those at-large NCAA bids.
Right. A couple of former area players of the year on the basketball side have made some waves recently. Taft, Avery Green, and Tristan Carey, both making some good games recently.
Yeah, Tristan at Longwood, of course, when he played at Colonial Beach, he was known as TT, but he went back to his birth name a couple of years ago, and he's played really well since he's been at Longwood. He had 33 points against UNC Asheville. He missed the game-winning three-pointer. They lost the game 67-66, but he had a stretch there where he scored 18 points in about 4 minutes, hit 6 straight threes. So I'm sure that's a sight that's plenty familiar to Colonial Beach natives.
Yeah. Amazing. Let's take a look now at the boys basketball, our top 5 for Varsity 360. And at number 5, we have Mountain View, now standing at 11-7 after a 69-53 victory over Patriot this past week.
And for Mountain View, a big week actually. On Monday, they're playing, while we're recording this, they're playing Potomac for the top spot in Conference 15. Potomac is just, it seems like the class of that conference, and then you look at Mountain View coming up right behind them, right nipping on their heels.
And I guess depending on the result of that, I guess the second spot will be kind of a competition between Mountain View and Massaponax, should they lose on Monday. I'm sorry. Massaponax, I saw them up close last week. Real solid, strong team. Aaron McFarland, who came, he had a slump for a while. He came out of that slump and had a really good game against Riverbend. Logan Sechrist is a big man inside. He does a lot for them. So they could be a challenger for that second spot if Mountain View's in the picture there too. Mountain View last year, they were so dominant, but they still have that point guard, Lucas Brown, who's so good defensively, and does a lot for them in the transition game on offense. They just don't have the three-point shooters they had last year. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see how their offensive pieces kind of come together here late around Brown and see how good they can get come playoff time.
Well, Mountain View's been clinging to that number 5 spot in our top 5, but there's some real competition there in Conference 15, it sounds like.
Absolutely. I think Massaponax and Mountain View are right there neck and neck for that second spot. And I haven't seen the rest of the schools, but I think those top 3 are real solid. Solid schools.
And just looking at results, Brook Point with a big win over Riverbend on Friday. Brook Point very young this year, but they can. I think Riverbend's a quality team, and if Brook Point can score a win there, then maybe they're a team you look at upset wise coming into the Conference 15 tournament.
Well, at number 4 in the boys basketball varsity 360 top 5, we have Spotsylvania, now 10-3, a big victory over JM this past week, 83-58. Darius Carter nearly missing a triple-double there.
Yeah, Spotsylvania, they're playing really well right now. They're on a 7-game winning streak, I believe, and they have a really big contest coming up on Saturday when they visit Culpeper. That could be for the Conference 27 title.
Looking to run the board on Conference 27. They're still unbeaten there.
Yeah, the first time they played Culpeper, they lost, but that game didn't count in the conference standing. So this game could be really interesting. They have a big man inside, and Bradley Anderson, who's probably averages a double-double, and one of Culpeper's few weaknesses over the last couple of years has been interior defense. So that'll be an interesting battle on Saturday.
Darius Carter with 16 points, 10 rebounds, and 7 assists in that victory over James Monroe. At number 3 in the boys basketball top 5, we have Chancellor, now 13-2 after a 61-50 victory over Cortland.
And they've wrapped up, can do no worse than tie for the first place in Conference 22. Again, this year, winning your conference doesn't get you into the region playoffs, but it does get you that 1 seed. And I think that alone is a big step. You got to make it to the region tournament. You got to finish 1 or 2 in your conference tournament to move on. It looks like Chancellor will be in that 1 spot there in 22.
They lost a lot of talent from last year too. That's impressive that they're 13-2 this year because they had 2 players last year. Chris Holmes, namely, was their big scorer last year. To lose the scoring they lost last year and to still be in that picture there, that's impressive for them.
Yeah. And they're getting it from several different players. Juwan Graves in this game against Cortland went for 20 points and 7 rebounds, but I think they've had a number of different top scorers. Probably at least 4 or 5 different kids have led them in scoring in specific games.
Yeah, one of the big victims of the snow last week was we were going to get to see Chancellor and Colonial Forge play as a sort of a nice non-conference but a good matchup for the area. Mm-hmm. A victim of the snow doesn't look like it'll be made up.
Yeah. Well, another team at 13-2 and coming in at number 2 in the Varsity 360 top 5, we have Culpeper. A pretty simple 67-49 victory over Eastern View this past week. I think that was their only game. They've missed some time due to the snow as well. Weather's playing havoc with some schedules around the area. And finally, at number 1 in the Varsity 360 boys basketball top 5, we have Colonial Forge. No real need for a drum roll there. Forge coming in at 15-1. Actually had a little bit of a tough game against Massaponax this week, 75-65. Marco Haskins with 29 points, though. They were able to pull that one out. Good to have some competition, though. You need to be involved in some games in the fourth quarter.
It looked like that game played out in similar fashion to the first time that those teams played. Pretty close game through 3 quarters, and then Colonial Forge's depth and their strength eventually wears teams down in the end.
So that is the boys basketball Varsity 360 top 5. Let's take a look now on the girls' side. And we have a brand new entrant into our top 5. This has been a sort of a rotating chairs here at the number 5 position. This week we are going to point out Riverbend High School. They are now 12-4 after a couple of big victories this past week.
Yeah, the 42-39 win over Massaponax. That's the one that opens my eyes. I think Massaponax is one of the better teams in Conference 15, and Riverbend comes out now. They've swept the season series against the Panthers, and in Conference 4, certainly. If you're following girls basketball, you know who we're talking about for number 1 there in Conference 4. But after that, I think it gets a little more wide open. And Riverbend is a team. They come out and post quality wins. Maybe come out and get that 2nd spot and move on to the region tournament.
Yeah, and 12-4 is certainly nothing to sneeze at there. Yeah. The victory against Brook Point, they won 50-49. Candace Beverly with 15 points and 11 rebounds, and Laney Harmon with 17 points. So a good scoring performance. They certainly have the ability to score some points.
They've got athletes. The Beverly twins and are very athletic. Candace can get to the basket a little bit, and then they've got some shooters to surround them with. So I think, again, sort of similarly talented teams. Riverbend can make some noise. They can do enough damage.
So Riverbend number 5 this week, but they do have a challenging schedule for this coming week,
including Colonial Forge.
Including Colonial Forge. So we'll see if that is the Forge has. It feels like the last 3 weeks or so, Forge has played our number 5 team and knocked them out of the top 5. So we'll see if that happens again. I suspect that there's a good chance, but congratulations to Riverbend for making the top 5 at number 5. At number 4, we have Caroline, 12-3. They had a 58-32 victory over King George. Bo Hayes, another great game.
Yeah, 14 points and 20 rebounds. She's a really scrappy player. She's not afraid to get down on the floor and dive for balls, and she goes all out. And they've been able to overcome some injuries and piece it together. They looked like they might have been teetering a little bit after the loss to Chancellor. Lost a few of their key players, but they have a really strong nucleus of players, and those 4 girls have kept them together.
I'm looking forward to seeing how they fare when they get to their conference tournament against a lot of the Richmond area schools and see how they can do.
Yeah, that'll definitely be the test. I mean, this year is probably one of the strongest teams they've had in years. But if they were here up in one of the leagues up here, it probably would bode a bit better for them. So, yeah.
Well, at number 3 in the Varsity 360 top 5 on the girls' side, we have Colonial Beach. That up-tempo defense, pressing defense that scores a lot of points. They are now 13-1 after a big victory over Lancaster, 55-34.
Yeah, Sydney Carey with 19 points and 7 assists in that game, and a big test for Colonial Beach coming up in their conference this week, actually on Wednesday. So maybe just after just right before you're going to see this.
Right.
And they just keep rolling and keep winning games, and definitely in the race to be a 1 seed in their conference tournament and then get on and see if you can get onto the region. I think I like Colonial Beach a lot to make some postseason noise.
Excellent. Well, at number 2, we have Chancellor, now at 14-3, a big victory over Cortland this past week, 81-52, and my goodness, what some scoring. Emily Green with 32 points and Jayla Harris with 28. Sydney Jackson, poor Sydney, she scored 13 points and 12 rebounds, but that was almost an afterthought there with those kinds of offensive output numbers.
Yeah, that had to be one of the more impressive performances by any team in the area this year. I mean, they only led 9-7 after 1 quarter, and to score 81 points in that game, that's very impressive. Emily Green hit 8 3-pointers, and she was pretty unconscious. So.
In fuego, is that?
Yeah. You still say that? I don't know.
Well, sure. The kids do, I think.
Importantly,
YouTube, but you can find out about that.
Like the boys' team, Chancellor girls can do no worse than tie for first in Conference 22. They're definitely in the driver's seat there.
Yeah, should probably mention that Jayla Harris, all 28 of her points came in the first half of that game. So.
Yeah. That's pretty amazing. Yeah. Well, and again, no suspense here at number 1. Again, we've got Colonial Forge, a huge victory over Massaponax this past week, 77-34. Jayla Osborne, 17 points and 13 rebounds, and they just continue to roll on.
Yeah, they're the buzzsaw in the area. I thought you talked about the 5th team getting knocked off by Forge. I think every team in the area has had their turn getting knocked off by Forge. Their 3 losses were to powerhouse teams that they scheduled to kind of bump up the intensity to kind of get them ready for the playoff time. They're strong, they're balanced, they have a lot, and they're going to keep rolling. I can't see them falling to anybody in the area, and that's no knock on anybody in the area. They're just too good. Yeah,
I think even Forge is probably looking forward to getting to the point where, all right, here we go, now it's for real. I think they're probably ready for that.
Yeah, I mean, in the preseason, Coach Darley was just telling me they were just eager to get pushed, because last year, come region playoff time, they played Stonewall Jackson in the region championship. That was really kind of the first time that they'd really been, challenged, and they really went out of their way this year to play the Mauries, the teams that were balanced and loaded, and they really wanted to kind of get ready for that intensity that they were going to face come playoff time. And I think it's worked for them. They have 3 losses. I know that's disappointing for them, but I think it's going to get them ready and help them, come crunch time.
So the 3 losses, it's Maury, a powerhouse private school, and Lake Taylor's another strong school.
It was First Colonial.
First Colonial. And, that's 3 quality losses for sure.
Yeah. And it's good to have that kind of adversity to be able to thrive when you're under the kind of pressure late in the season when they're, a loss is really going to hurt you. You can survive an early season loss. You can't survive a late season loss.
Right. Yeah. Michelle Darley was telling me in the preseason when I was doing the preview on them that when they got to the Final Four last year in the state, the rebounding was their biggest issue because it really wasn't a factor during the year. They didn't have to find ways to get to the boards, and they have Jayla Osborne, who's a really good rebounder, but they've been looking for those different pieces to kind of get in there and crash the boards. And when you wait till the Final Four to finally figure out what you need to work on, that's way too late. Yeah. So playing those teams, like First Colonial, Maury, that kind of gives you an idea. Okay, what do we need to work on? What do we need to tweak during the year? And then what do our lineups need to look like when we're playing like these powerhouse teams? And I think they're better for it.
Some other exciting basketball on the girls' side in the area as well. Haven't made it into our top 5, but particularly out of Conference 27. I guess Spotsy's really got some good talent there and some exciting competition.
Well, they come out and they get a big win against JM on Friday, and that basically puts them in the driver's seat there for Conference 27. And Courtney Simmons is great. We've seen her play, and she can score, but they got a lot of key contributions for some other girls. 3-point shots. Jamie Ford running out on when the shot goes up. Jamie Ford's running out, and Courtney Simmons is really good getting the ball up quick to her. Ford gets a lot of points making layups off long outlets from Simmons. So for Spotsy, I think they look like the best team in Conference 27. So then you're going to get into the region playoffs and see what you can do.
The thing that impressed me about Courtney Simmons is you look at the box score and you see 25 points, but you also see 20 rebounds.
Right.
And she's just going nuts on she's filling up the stat book there, and that's just really impressive when she's just giving them so much, and she's a really great player.
A really complete player.
Yeah.
I think
one of the best parts of Simmons is, she's clearly the best player on Spotsylvania's team, but you can see her making an effort to, if you're a Spotsy teammate and you are open, Courtney Simmons is going to pass you the ball and you're going to get a chance to score. She's certainly unselfish and yet still manages to get hers as the game goes on.
Still early, a lot of basketball to be played, but in terms of area player of the year, she's certainly going to be in consideration for that.
Yeah, she was
in the
last
lead,
year,
you think?
Yeah. She was the area player of the year last year. You also have to look at Jayla Harris has had a really outstanding year. Jayla Osborne has had a really good year. So I don't want to say who's in the lead right now, but she's definitely a contender.
Certainly in the discussion. Yeah.
Well, as the reigning champ is, so you have an automatic berth into that discussion. Well, that's the girls' basketball for the area. Let's take a look now at wrestling. Time now to introduce the Varsity 360 Athlete of the Week, and he is Mountain View wrestler Junior Beltran, who this past week at the Titan Duels went 5-0, recording his 150th career win. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, we've talked about Junior for the last couple of weeks. A state title contender at 5'8", 120 pounds. We have him number 1 at the weight class, and definitely having a solid year and a solid career.
No doubt. Well, we've got some conference tournaments coming up, Justin. Exciting times in the wrestling world.
Yeah, this is really what it's all about, for wrestling to get into the postseason now and sort of try to progress your way to that state championship. We start with Conference 4 on Saturday. They're at Forest Park. That's Colonial Forge and Stafford and Riverbend. Everybody likes Colonial Forge here. I look at my numbers and I project 11 individual champions for the Eagles. Including the guys we've talked about all season here. Jeff Stone at 138, Patrick Grayson at 220. Colonial Forge is a solid program, and I think their new heavyweight is another kid that can make some noise. And for Forge, they're not going to win a state title by having champions. They're going to win a state title by having 10, 11, 12 place winners of the state tournament. So to have now a heavyweight that can maybe do that as well, score some points for them.
Score some more points for them, yeah.
And then we go on Saturday also, Conference 15. That's at Massaponax, starting at 11 in the morning. That's Mountain View, North Stafford, Brook Point, and of course Massaponax. Again, you just like all year we've been talking about Forge and Mountain View. You like Mountain View there. Maybe 8 individual champions. Beltran you certainly like. Jared Swan you certainly like. Russell Ramsey at 152 pounds definitely like. And I think Brook Point as maybe a second-tier team. Shane Ice and some of their kids. I think Brook Point's a team that could definitely make noise there. at Conference 15. And then I think a really nice one, maybe the best of the team matchups is Conference 22. They're at Eastern View on Saturday morning, and you like Eastern View to win it there. They've got the Ramies are back, Brian Ramey, of course, and Austin Jenkins and Logan Sharina. But then Fauquier is a team that I know at the beginning of the year, the Eastern View coaches thought Fauquier was a team that could push them in Conference 22. So that should be a good test for Eastern View. I like Eastern View there, but I think their win there is closer than either Mountain View in Conference 15 or Colonial Forge in Conference 4.
So an exciting day of wrestling coming up. Saturday is going to be a big day for area wrestling.
Big day for wrestling.
No doubt. A couple of gymnastics meets coming up this week as well. Actually on Wednesday, remember we're recording this on Monday. On Wednesday, North Stafford, Mountain View, and Brook Point will be holding their conference meet. And then on Saturday, Stafford is holding the conference meet for their conference.
Yeah, for their pairings. It's Stafford, it's Colonial Forge, and then they're going to see Battlefield, Osborne Park, Verina, and Patriot. And these are all teams that Stafford and Colonial Forge have seen this year in weekend invitationals, the Aloha Invitational at Patriot High School, of course, Stonewall Jackson's meet earlier in December. And Stafford has done well in those meets. I like Stafford here again in the conference meet, to win. Again, like Colonial Forge Wrestling, maybe not because they have the all-around champion or the best individual, but they're just Stafford gymnasts. They flood you with depth, and they have a lot of girls and a lot of events, score a lot of points, and I certainly like Stafford there on Saturday.
That's Saturday. And where's that going to be?
That's at Stafford.
At Stafford,
yes.
Right. So Saturday, wow, lots of exciting high school athletic action in the area for Saturday.
These next 3 weekends, we're going to go wrestling and gymnastics this weekend. We're going to see a lot of swimming next weekend, more wrestling, more gymnastics. Then we're going to get into some track coming up here soon, and it all sort of steamrolls towards the end of the month for the state championship weekends with wrestling, track, and gymnastics all at the same time. And then, basketball.
And did you mention swimming?
Yes, swimming. I did mention swimming, as a matter of fact. But we're going to start the one meet. Most of the teams they did their conference meets last weekend, last Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and now a lot of them have this week off. The exception being the 5A North. That's going to be the North Stafford, Brook Point, Massaponax. Those teams are going to first. Mountain View. Those teams are going to go ahead with their region meet, the 5A North meet, on Friday, 3:30 at George Mason.
Excellent.
It's in Manassas, actually, right? The Freedom Center.
Yes, the Freedom
Manassas,
Center. Yes.
Yep. Super. So another exciting week of athletic competition in the high school area for the Fredericksburg region. No surprise there. Lots of exciting and enjoyable times. So hopefully you're able to go out and catch a meet or a game and see something exciting. Certainly appreciate you tuning in and catching us here every week at Varsity 360. I appreciate having the three amigos here, some of my very best friends from FLS Varsity, Justin, Taft, and Nathan. I appreciate your time, and certainly a pleasure having you here. Please remember, every day you should be logging on to flsvarsity.com. You want to keep up with area high school sports, that's the place to do it, flsvarsity.com. You can also follow them on Twitter at FLSVarsity. You can also keep up with the V2SN sports with Varsity 360 on Twitter. I am at Mark Coleman, V2SN. Certainly love to hear from you. We love to hear the great stories from the area and love to hear from you about what you enjoy hearing and seeing. For the Virginia Varsity Sports Network and these good folks from Fredericksburg.com and FLSvarsity.com, I'm Mark Coleman. Thanks for watching, everyone.